Just then, the kitchen door opened. Cecilia. "I got your message," she heard. Then she saw Snape withdrew his wand from his robe. Behind him stood Remus, rooted to the spot. Then she felt Sirius's weight lift off her, as Snape threw him across the kitchen. A stream of yellow light bounced off one of the walls and narrowly missed them all. Snape and Sirius stood before one another, wands raised. "I'll kill her," screamed Sirius, pointing his wand towards Cecilia, who was now flicking in and out of conscious, slumped on the tiled floor. "Black," growled Snape. "Lupin. I thought you said you were going to keep this mad dog under control." He glanced over to the kitchen door, but Remus had moved and was kneeling beside Cecilia. "If I kill her, you'll kill me," said Sirius in a low tone. "Which, granted, is a fair exchange. She told me what you were up to, Snivellus, and when she's dead you won't be able to harm Harry." No. It wasn't Snape who spoke, it was Remus. "Sirius. You know as well as anyone what we are up against." He turned to look at Cecilia, his eyes roamed her body for injuries, watching as her breathing grew ragged and irregular. She was unconscious, her face sickeningly pale. He held her close in his arms, supporting her and trying to make it easier for her to breathe. Then, Molly entered the kitchen. "What's—" she began, surveying the kitchen in horror, the overturned table, the broken china. Then her eyes followed the line of Sirius's wand to Cecilia. She broke her gaze and glanced round, quickly. "What's going on here?" She looked between Snape, who still had his wand pointed at Sirius. "Remus, what's happened? Oh my dear gods, what's happened to her? Arthur!" She turned her head and shouted for her husband through the open door. "Black attacked her," said Snape, staring with loathing at his adversary. "He was going to kill her." Mrs. Weasley's stunned face met Remus's eyes, and he nodded in confirmation. She gasped. Just then, Mr. Weasley entered the kitchen. He surveyed the scene. He held up a small vial with a few drops of clear liquid inside. "The twins said they gave it to Sirius," said Mr. Weasley carefully. "They were going to play a joke on Cecilia, ask her embarrassing questions, but they said that Sirius suggested he would ask the questions, and they could listen. With these," he added meaningfully, holding up a pair of extendable ears. "I just caught them red-handed on the stairs." The expression on Mrs. Weasley's face turned from concern and agitation to white-hot fury. "Veritaserum!" shouted Snape. "Don't you know it can have toxic effects in moles?" He shouted accusingly at Sirius, who had lowered his wand slightly. Or was that the point? Sirius smirked at his remark. Snape dived towards him, holding him against the kitchen wall. Sirius's wand went flying onto the floor. "Is this how you attacked her?" He turned his gaze on Snape. "Did you enjoy it? She is weak anyway, and we know that's how you like them, Snivellus. I expect another week in your hands, and I needn't have worried about killing her myself. You would have done the job for me. Or were you saving her as a prize? Oh yes." He spat, triumphantly, as if he's just worked out the game. Snape pushed him harder against the wall and tightening his grip, forcing himself not to look round at the eyes which were no doubt upon him. "We need to get her medical help," said Mrs. Weasley frantically. "Will wizard healers be able to help?" "I'll go and get Poppy," said Mr. Weasley. "Then I'll owl Dumbledore," he added, and disapparated. "Remus," she said, "can you get her upstairs?" She tried to make her way across to Cecilia. She didn't need to. Strong hands had already, firmly but gently, picked up Cecilia's limp body. With a glance mixed with sadness and anger towards his friend, still pinned to the wall by Snape, Remus strode out. Snape turned to see Sirius's exultant expression. "If she dies," he growled, his voice cracking slightly, "I shall not be responsible for my actions.